The box was already on her desk when she walked in. She didn't put it there. George Robinson did. He was standing behind it, suit pressed, smile easy, like a man who had rehearsed this moment the night before and liked how it felt. "Yolanda, sit down." She didn't sit. She looked at the box, at the framed photo of her daughter inside it, at the stapler she'd bought herself 12 years ago the week she started. Everything neatly packed, everything already decided. "We're restructuring. The company is moving in a new direction." He didn't look at her when he said it. Preston Cole was in the corner of the room, leaning against the glass wall with his arms crossed, and a look she'd seen before. Not anger, worse than that. Amusement. Marcus Holt typed something on his phone. Robert Quinlan stared at the ceiling. 3 executives in a room, and not one of them could hold her gaze. "What does that mean?" she asked. Her voice was steady. She made sure of that. George set a single document on the desk. A separation agreement. "You've been an incredible asset, Yolanda, but the board feels—" "The board," she said it quietly. "Name one person on that board who's reviewed my work." Silence. That's when Preston cut in. He smiled, tight, controlled, the kind of smile that was really a door being shut. "You've had a great run, but this company needs energy. It needs fresh perspective." 63 years old. That's what he meant. He didn't say it. Men like Preston Cole never say what they mean. They say energy, they say fresh, they say direction. But what they mean is, you are old and we are done with you. Yolanda Taylor picked up the box, both hands. She walked to the door. She did not cry. She did not look back. And she had absolutely no idea, not one thought in her mind, that the document sitting on George Robinson's desk, the one he had carefully moved beneath the separation agreement before she walked in, was a shareholder registry, with her name on it and a number next to it that none of them wanted her to see. $120 million. What happened next will change everything you think you know about who really owns that company. If you've ever been underestimated, this story is yours. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe so you never miss stories like this. And tell us in the comments, has anyone ever tried to remove you from something that was rightfully yours? She walked the longest walk of her life. 47 steps from George Robinson's office to the elevator. She counted them. 12 years. 12 years of 6 a.m. starts and 9 p.m. emails. 12 years of projects she built from nothing, handed upward and watched other people take credit for. 12 years. 47 steps. The junior analysts watched her from behind their monitors. They didn't speak. They didn't have to. She could feel the shape of their silence, the specific discomfort of people who know something is wrong and have chosen not to know it. She thought about the Henderson account. The firm was hemorrhaging clients. She rebuilt that relationship from a single phone call and a spreadsheet she made at her kitchen table at midnight, alone. Nobody asked her how she did it. They just expected her to do it again. And she had, again and again and again. Fresh perspective, Preston had said. She turned that phrase over in her mind as the elevator doors opened. Fresh, as if loyalty was a liability, as if muscle memory was something to be cleared away to make room for someone younger, smoother, less inconvenient. As if 31 years in this industry, half of them inside those walls, was something a company could just fold up and put in a box. The box was heavier than it should have been. Or maybe she was just tired. She didn't know what she was walking away from. She thought she did. She thought this was the end of something. She had no idea it was the beginning. Somewhere on the 14th floor, in a mahogany desk George Robinson kept locked, there was a document with her name on it, and a number, and not one person in that building was going to tell her it existed. They fired her. They just forgot one thing. She counted her steps. She didn't know why. She just did. 1, 2, 3. 34 years of her life. And this is how it ended. A cardboard box, a hallway that felt a mile long, and the sound of her own shoes on marble she had helped this company pay for. She passed the conference room where she had closed the Meridian account in 2009. $300 million. The whole floor had cheered. George Robinson had shaken her hand and called her irreplaceable. She remembered the exact word he used. Irreplaceable. She passed the corner office that used to be Arthur Hargrove's. It was a storage room now. Filing cabinets, boxes of archived documents nobody had touched in years. She slowed without meaning to. She didn't know why that door made her chest tighten. She kept walking. There's a specific kind of pain that doesn't arrive loudly. It doesn't come with tears or raised voices. It settles in slowly, like cold water rising, and by the time you feel how deep it is, you're already standing in it. Yolanda Taylor felt it in the elevator. She looked at that photo. Stacy had been 7 when Yolanda took that job. 7 years old, missing her 2 front teeth, holding a crayon drawing of her mother at a desk surrounded by stars. Because you're the smartest person in every room, Mama. Yolanda had framed it the first week, kept it 34 years. And now a 41-year-old man in a tailored suit had packed it in a box and pointed her toward the exit. She stood there for a long moment. Not broken. Not finished. Something else entirely. She thought about every deal she'd closed with no credit. Every strategy she'd written that was presented by someone else. Every birthday she'd missed. Every school play. Every Saturday morning her daughter had eaten cereal alone because her mother was on a conference call with men who would never say her name in the meeting recap. 34 years. And they thought a cardboard box would be enough. What Yolanda didn't know, what she couldn't know standing on that sidewalk with her whole career in her arms, was that somewhere inside that building, on the 3rd floor, in a filing cabinet that hadn't been opened in 19 years, was a document with her name on it, and a number next to it that would change everything. She just hadn't found it yet.
Before we talk about what they took from her, we need to talk about what she built. Yolanda Taylor grew up in Dayton, Ohio, 3rd of 4 children. Her father worked at a sheet metal plant for 31 years. Her mother kept the books for their church by hand every Sunday at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and a sharpened pencil. That's where Yolanda learned numbers, not in a classroom, at a kitchen table, watching her mother find a $12 discrepancy in a donation ledger and refuse to move until she found it. Numbers don't lie, her mother told her. People lie. Numbers just wait. She was the first person in her family to finish a 4-year degree. She graduated in 1985, applied to 14 firms, got 2 callbacks, 1 offer. She took it. The salary was $19,400 a year. She told her mother it was $22,000 so she wouldn't worry. In her 2nd month at Hargrove, she noticed something nobody had flagged. 3 major client accounts were being billed on a 45-day cycle when the contract specified 30. The difference, compounded across a full year, was costing the firm over $180,000 in delayed cash flow. She fixed it quietly, rewrote the billing schedule, submitted it to her supervisor, a man named Dennis Pratt, in a 2-page memo. Dennis Pratt presented it at the quarterly meeting as his own idea. He received a commendation. Yolanda received nothing. She didn't say anything. She went back to her desk, and she got better. That was the pattern. Year after year, idea after idea, strategy after strategy, handed up the chain, repackaged, rebranded, represented by men who understood what Yolanda had not yet learned. In rooms like that, credit doesn't go to the person who earns it. It goes to the person who takes it. By 2001, she had personally retained $40 million in client accounts that 3 separate internal audits had flagged as at risk. By 2003, Arthur Hargrove had quietly begun restructuring the company's ownership documents. Nobody knew why he was doing it. Nobody asked. Arthur Hargrove was not a man who made decisions carelessly. He had watched Yolanda Taylor for 15 years, and he had decided that what this company owed her, what no bonus, no title, no commendation could ever repay, required something permanent, something that couldn't be taken back, something that would survive even him. He signed those papers in November 2003. He died in March 2006, and the men who inherited his company inherited his files, every single one of them. The question was never whether the document existed. The question was whether Yolanda Taylor would ever find it.
The same afternoon they fired Yolanda Taylor, they celebrated. George Robinson had been planning this for 8 months. Not the restructuring, not the new direction. This. Getting Yolanda out of the building before anyone started asking questions about the company's upcoming acquisition. Because when Corlin Group finalized its merger with Westbridge Capital, a deal worth $840 million, every ownership document in the company's history would be reviewed. Every file, every archive, every filing cabinet on every floor. Preston Cole had known about Arthur Hargrove's equity restructuring since 2011. He had found it during a routine legal review and made a quiet, deliberate decision. He told no one outside the room. He moved the documents deeper into the archive, and he waited. Marcus Holt had the legal framework ready within a week, a separation agreement designed to sever all prior claims. Broad language, standard formatting, easy to miss if you weren't looking. Robert Quinlan had drafted the internal memo that reclassified Yolanda's employee status, quietly, 3 months earlier, in a way that would make any future equity claim significantly harder to pursue. 4 men. 8 months of preparation. All of it built on one assumption, that Yolanda Taylor would sign the agreement, walk away quietly, and never look back. To the next chapter, George said. They drank. What none of them discussed, what Preston Cole had carefully avoided putting in writing anywhere, was the specific reason the timing of Yolanda's termination mattered so much. The Westbridge acquisition was closing in 41 days. Once it closed, all shareholder equity would be formally restructured under the new parent company. Any existing claims would be absorbed, reclassified, and buried under 3 layers of new corporate architecture. 41 days. That's how long they had to make sure Yolanda Taylor remained unaware. George Robinson had assembled this plan the way a careful man assembles anything, methodically, privately, with complete confidence in one thing above all else, that the woman he had just fired would never walk back through those doors. He never once considered the possibility that she wouldn't have to. Her name was Lenora Lamb, and 3 days later, Yolanda Taylor would find her.
Yolanda didn't find Lenora Lamb through a referral. She found her through a newspaper. A 2019 profile, 4 paragraphs buried on page 12. A corporate attorney who had spent 11 years at one of Chicago's largest firms before walking away to open a 2-person practice in Cincinnati. The article said she specialized in cases the big firms wouldn't touch. It said she had a win rate nobody wanted to talk about. It said she had once recovered $31 million in suppressed equity for a retired logistics executive who had been told by 4 separate attorneys that he had no case. Yolanda read that line twice. Then she picked up the phone. Yolanda Lamb was 61 years old. She had silver locks pulled back, reading glasses on a chain. The particular stillness of a person who had spent decades in rooms where every word had a consequence. She did not stand when Yolanda walked in. She pointed at the chair across from her desk. "Sit. Tell me everything. Don't leave anything out because you think it's small. The small things are usually where the case lives." Yolanda talked for 40 minutes. The 34 years, the accounts, the ideas that became other people's promotions. Arthur Hargrove, the way George Robinson had moved a document beneath the separation agreement before she walked into that office. She didn't know why she remembered that detail, but she remembered it. "Say that again," Lenora said. "What he moved?" "A document on the desk. He slid it under the agreement before I came in." Silence. Lenora Lamb took off her reading glasses. "Did you sign the separation agreement?" "No," Yolanda said. "Something felt wrong. I walked out without signing." In 31 years of practice, Lenora Lamb had learned to identify 2 kinds of clients: those who had been wronged, and those who had been wronged and didn't yet know the full size of it. The first kind needed a lawyer. The second kind needed a forensic excavation of everything they'd been kept from knowing. "I need you to write down every name, every executive, every title change, every account you closed and didn't receive credit for." She paused. "And I need the name of the man who founded that company." "Arthur Hargrove," she said. In 31 years of practice, Lenora Lamb had handled 17 corporate suppression cases in her career. In 4 of them, the key was the founder, not what they said, not what they did, what they left behind. She didn't tell Yolanda what she was thinking, not yet, but she was already certain of one thing. Whatever George Robinson had slid under that agreement, it was still in that building. Lenora Lamb did not sleep that night. Neither did Vincent Caruso. Vincent Caruso was Lenora's associate, 10 years out of Georgetown law, the kind of attorney who found comfort in the architecture of things, in the way documents connected, the way paper trails bent around secrets instead of through them. He had been with Lenora for 6 years. He had never seen her move this fast. By 6 a.m., she had subpoenaed Corlin Group's corporate registry through a Delaware disclosure filing, a procedural mechanism so routine that most companies didn't flag it until 3 days after compliance. They had 36 hours before George Robinson's legal team would know someone was looking. "Lenora?" His voice was flat, the specific flatness of someone trying not to telegraph what they're feeling. She crossed the room. She read it once. Then again. They knew. They've always known. Taylor, Yolanda M., 20% equity interest, irrevocable, vested November 14, 2003. 20%. At Corlin Group's last independent valuation, conducted 14 months ago in preparation for the Westbridge acquisition, the company was valued at $612 million. 20% of $612 million. $122 million. Yolanda Taylor's name. Yolanda Taylor's stake. sitting in an archive for 19 years, while the men who found it handed her a salary, a parking space, and the careful illusion of belonging. How did she not know? Because nobody told her, Lenora said, and she trusted the wrong room. Arthur Hargrove had written those documents with intention. The language was ironclad. Irrevocable meant irrevocable. It didn't matter what George Robinson restructured. It didn't matter what Robert Quinlan reclassified. It didn't matter how many layers Marcus Holt had buried it under. The document existed. It had always existed. And the moment it was filed, the moment Arthur Hargrove signed his name on November 14, 2003, it became Yolanda Taylor's. Permanently, legally, undeniably. I pulled their internal communications from the 2011 legal review, Catherine said. Preston Cole sent a memo, internal only, marked confidential. She set the tablet on the desk. Do not surface the Hargrove allocation. Manage Taylor accordingly. Manage Taylor accordingly. 34 years of Yolanda's life compressed into 4 words. They hadn't just hidden the document. They had built an entire strategy around keeping one woman too busy, too grateful, and too trusting to ever look down and see what was already beneath her feet. And they had 34 days left to make it disappear forever. They didn't know the clock had already run out.
They had called it a courtesy meeting. A chance, their attorney said, for all parties to reach an amicable resolution before any formal proceedings complicated what was, he used this word carefully, an otherwise straightforward separation. George Robinson saw her and smiled. The smile of a man who believes he is already holding every card. They sat down. Lenora placed a single folder on the table. She did not open it. George's attorney spoke first. Standard language, mutual respect, severance terms. A revised separation agreement, more generous than the first, he noted, designed to provide Yolanda Taylor with a dignified conclusion to her tenure. He used the word dignified twice. Lenora waited until he finished. Then she opened the folder. This is the original Hargrove equity restructuring, Lenora said, filed with the Delaware Corporate Registry. Irrevocable language, fully vested. Your company has been in possession of this document since at least 2011. She slid the second document across. This is a memo authored by Preston Cole, dated April 3, 2011, marked internal and confidential. In it, Mr. Cole instructs senior leadership not to surface the Hargrove allocation. She paused, and to manage Ms. Taylor accordingly. 34 years. That's how long they had managed her accordingly. 34 years of ideas without credit, strategies without titles, loyalty without equity. A woman kept precisely close enough to be useful and precisely far enough from the filing cabinet that held her name. The Westbridge merger closes in 31 days, Lenora said. Miss Taylor's 20% equity stake, valued at current independent assessment, represents $122 million. That stake is irrevocable. It survives any acquisition restructuring. It survived your 2011 decision. It survived your reclassification of her employment status. And it survived the separation agreement she did not sign. She let that sit. Her attorney leaned in and whispered something. George did not respond. Preston Cole had spent 8 months engineering the perfect exit. He had accounted for the agreement, the reclassification, the timing, the archive. He had not accounted for a woman who didn't sign.
He had not accounted for Lenora Lamb, and he had not accounted for the one detail that undid everything, that Arthur Hargrove had filed those documents in Delaware. Not Cincinnati, not Corlin Group's internal system, Delaware, a public registry, available to anyone who knew what to look for. He had invited her here to close a door. He had opened one instead.
The settlement took 19 days, not because Lenora Lamb needed more time, because George Robinson needed that long to accept that there was nothing left to negotiate. Preston Cole had retained separate counsel on day 3. That was the first sign. When men who built something together start hiring separate attorneys, it means they've stopped protecting the plan and started protecting themselves. Done. The terms were not made public. They rarely are. But what can be said is this. Yolanda Taylor received her full equity stake, every dollar of it, restructured cleanly under the Westbridge acquisition framework that George Robinson had spent 8 months weaponizing against her, and that Lenora Lamb spent 19 days turning it into the instrument of her full restoration. $122 million. Hers. The way it had always been hers. The way Arthur Hargrove intended it to be hers. On a November afternoon in 2003, when a quiet man with reading glasses sat alone at his desk and decided that what this company owed one woman could not be measured in a salary. She did not return to Corlin Group. She never intended to. Taylor Advisory Group. She started it 3 months after the settlement, a boutique financial advisory firm. 8 employees, 4 of whom were women over 50 who had been quietly pushed out of their own companies in the years before she was. She knew exactly what that felt like. She knew exactly what they needed. Stacy Bellamy had taken a leave from her own job the week her mother was fired. She had not gone back. As for the men, George Robinson resigned from Corlin Group 6 weeks after the settlement. The official statement cited personal reasons. Marcus Holt left quietly in the same month. Robert Quinlan remained, reduced, a man occupying a title that no longer carried the weight it once had. And Preston Cole. Preston Cole sent a letter, not to Lenora Lamb, not to the attorneys, to Yolanda. 3 paragraphs, no excuses, an acknowledgement, careful, lawyer-reviewed, but an acknowledgement that what had been done was wrong. Yolanda read it once. She folded it. She placed it in a drawer, and she went back to work. There is a version of this story that ends with the money, with the number, with the settlement, with 4 men learning, too late and too publicly, that the woman they underestimated had been the foundation of everything they thought they owned. But that's not the real ending. The real ending is a 63-year-old woman at a desk she chose, in a room with her name on the door, building something that belongs to her, not because a founder signed it in secret, not because a courtroom confirmed it, but because she showed up every day for 34 years, and she never stopped. If you've ever given everything to something and been told you were worth less than what you built, this story is yours. Share it with someone who needs to hear it right now. Subscribe so you never miss stories like this, and tell us in the comments, has anyone ever tried to erase something you built? What did you do about it?